Coming up on this episode of Flirtations, we've got authenticity and personal branding expert Justin Schuman on the show to have an unbelievable conversation with us about the art of being you. From the fear of being too much to the sometimes complex nature of being authentic. What does that mean? Anyway, we'll explore what it means to be you and how owning who you are can transform your confidence and your dating life. We'll also talk about how to let yourself be seen, because that's what flirting and dating is kind of all about, right? And how you can allow someone to witness your humanness, your quirks, and your beautiful imperfections. Justin also has a grocery store flirting story for you, and we'll chat about our coaching journeys, which I think you'll find interesting. Finally, we'll touch on rejection and conclude with Justin's take on what it means to be human. It's time to own your story, tell it, feel your energy, and elevate your connections. Let's go, flirties, and meet Justin.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the flirt coach and a gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
Flirties, on the show today, we have Justin Schuman. Human is in his name, authenticity and storytelling expert, to have a conversation with us about the art of being you. Hi, Justin.
Hello, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited for this conversation today. How you doing?
I'm also excited. I'll be honest. I feel like I'm hitting a moment where I've been working really hard for 3 years, and it's catching up with me a little bit. So my body is telling me some things. My heart rate is fast. My anxiety is high, but maybe some flirties will identify with some of those things. But honestly, showering, shaving, and having this to look forward to was like a very good thing.
And that is exactly what I did before hitting record. We are, there will be a video hitting the feed post, right? We are clean shaven. We are looking good, feeling good. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I feel like I've been really diligently dedicated to this coaching journey for coming up on 3 years. And also, I talked about this on a recent episode, trying to find that balance when there really hasn't been any for quite a while.
Yeah, I actually think it's even funny hearing you say that. I'm pretty convinced this might be an unpopular opinion, but that feels like many of my opinions. I'm not sure there is balance to be found while grinding. I think intrinsic to the action and process of hustling and grinding, it's an ever-present lack of balance. We're just doing our best to make sure it doesn't fall into like cataclysmic territory. Yeah. And I don't think I've fallen into something dangerous. It's just like after a while, it does catch up with you, and you just hope that the intersection of finances and freedom of time meets the need to slow down at the right place in the timeline for you and your business. And I think I'm there. I know I'm there. How do you feel for you? Like, because we haven't chatted in a while. So where is the business?
The business is, so we got to know each other, I can't believe this, almost 2 years ago. I remember the first time I saw one of your videos on TikTok, and you happened to be live at the same time, went to the live, and I was really new in my coaching journey then, just really struggling to find who I am, what do I want to talk about. You know, a lot of the advice out there is niche down. You can only talk about one thing, and I just did not relate to that at all. It felt very confining. You were a breath of fresh air. And where I'm at with my coaching business is I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, but it's like a lot of times I'll get the advice, well, Benjamin, aren't you going to burn out? Shouldn't you slow down? And I'm like, we're not there yet. I feel like I have so many ideas. I have so much passion. I have so much drive and motivation. I wake up in the morning thinking about this. I go to bed thinking about this. Why would I tell myself to slow down when I feel like I have all these ideas that I just want to get out and that I want to share?
I mean, I can tell you factually, you will hear me make a content piece about this very soon, just because this conversation is stirring things in me, and only good things. But yeah, I agree. I've been told a lot over the past several years, like, well, you have to take time for yourself, all this. And I'm like, oh, I do in my ways. And at the same time, like, I can't afford to slow down, nor do I want to. So
No.
when I say I can't afford to, I don't mean monetarily. I mean like people dream of momentum.
Mm,
I'm not going to take it for granted, and I'm not going to stare in the face of opportunity and say like I need a moment.
yeah.
Caveat being like
Yeah.
sometimes you need a fucking moment.
Yeah.
So I do
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
understand that. I'm not trying to push past something that my body's like, we can't function if you do this.
Yeah.
But it is, like you said, just trying to find what might resemble balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And like where I try and find that balance, like where it works its way in is kind of like I always come back to my flirt coach mission, right? Like if I had to sum up my mission in one word, it's connection. Is what I'm posting, creating, talking about, sharing going to help the flirties with this theme of connection with themselves and their friendships, their relationships, platonic, romantic, all the things. And when I start to, I think, get a little bit more in my head, right? You're coming from the place of, oh, right, I need the view, I need the virality. Like you're coming from this place of need out of a place of lack of a little bit. Like you're just really pushing yourself beyond maybe what feels authentic to you. That's when I have to start to find the balance. Like I can't force myself to do this, but if I have the ideas, if I have something to say, I'm not going to hold back. That's not authentic to me.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think that
Yeah.
the desire has to be there first and foremost. And if that flame wavers or goes out momentarily, like that's the sign of like, okay, I don't even want to do this anymore right now. And that's probably the biggest indicator.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you there completely. And how did you get started in this work, Justin?
Oh my God. I was in Tina Turner musical on Broadway from 2019 to 2022, except for the pandemic. And during the pandemic, much like everybody else, I was like, who am I? What the fuck do I want to do? What has meaning anymore? Because meaning seemed to elude me, given that the world could completely shut down on a dime, which is what it felt like. And upon receiving reflections from some really close friends, they're like, well, you always have such great advice. You're a great listener. Like, why don't you write a book? And I was like, write a fucking book. I have no credibility. I have no idea what I have to write this book about. All right. That turned into like, well, what if I did look into some sort of form of helping people? But to be honest, I came to this table with a lot of hesitance about even the word coaching or the word coach. I just think it had been so co-opted and still by many, specifically on Instagram, just a world that I felt was very icky and I didn't really want much of a part of. But I was like, I have to do the education so that I, quote unquote, very HIPAA or Hippocratic oath rather, I do no harm. I was like, if I'm going to go into a situation where I'm working with people and talking to people, I want to make sure I'm at least equipped with tools and skills that I can show up as a version of myself that's most impactful.
Yeah.
Did a lot of that education, then signed up and forked over $8,000 for a coaching program that was so fucking miserable and was like, you need to niche down and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. I want to do this and I want this to be successful. I will do everything you say. I did it for a few months on mostly TikTok, but also Instagram. And I was like, this feels horrendous.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? And then I realized, and this is sort of the tenet, one of the main philosophies of everything that I do, is that niching down on social media was not dissimilar to the practice of putting yourself in a box in life and hiding all the things about you that have been clocked in the past by people who were like, that's undesirable, or you're too much, or you're not enough, or X, Y, and Z. There's so many for everybody. And I was like, well, I've done that for years, I guess. I've been hiding so many aspects of myself, and showing up online in this way is just mirroring that. And if not amplifying and cementing these really unhelpful habits and practices in my own life. Well, if that's true, I wonder if I could use social media to rip the box open and actually practice being a more expansive version of self. I honed those beliefs and gave a TEDx talk in 2022 called The Practice of Being Yourself. It's on YouTube. I'm absolutely plugging it. Go watch it.
Yes, do watch it, please.
And once I said like, fuck it, and just started doing me, whatever that meant to me in that moment of early January 22, TikTok grew pretty quickly. And in that first year, I grew like 230 something thousand followers, which was exciting and definitely an indication that like this can work. You don't need to put yourself in a very small cubby hole.
Exactly.
To make an algorithm happy, to get people to see you, you really do have to, like you said, focus on connection, focus on meeting your people where they're at. And it grew from there. But it's been a wild journey and everything really has truly changed, even as I know it in the last month. Like my business has entirely shifted. So for any flirties out there, by the way, love that they have a name. That is the most fantastic signature thing
community
ever.
Building, Justin, you know all about it.
Ethos, honey. I totally get it. But if any flirties out there are either entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs, just know that like you've chosen to do something so miserably difficult, and I support you, and I think it's admirable. I've done it. Benjamin's doing it. And it's brutal. It's like absolutely brutal. And I think the only way you don't succeed is if you do give up. So find and try to look for your options to push through and push forward. And it will not be comfortable much of the time, but it is worth it.
It is worth it. It's not for the faint of heart. And sometimes I think to myself, like, Benjamin, why do you always pick the hardest things to possibly do, right? Like, I had a whole 9-to-5 gig not that long ago. I could have stayed in that for the rest of my life, collected my monthly check, showing up to work, getting onto the computer, doing some emails, some Teams meeting, all the things, and been okay with that, except I wouldn't have been okay because it wasn't true to who I am. I had this creativity, this passion, something inside of me that was yet to be discovered, yet I knew I had to go on this journey to discover it. And when I totally relate to the early part of my coaching journey too, like I did those coaching programs, forking over tons of money, just I like get sick to my stomach thinking about it because you just want to, you feel the pressure to turn a profit, to go viral, to just establish yourself, right? There's tons of imposter syndrome. Oh my God, can I do this? Am I good enough, right? What do I even talk about? How do I market myself? And they're offering you these quick fix, right? Overnight solutions. But it really comes down to how do you think and feel about your self, like so much that comes from within. And then when I found you, I did your people pleasing to personal branding course, a group coaching course. I think we met, over 2 weeks. We had Zoom calls, presentations, right? Online curriculum, all the thing, went through how to create videos, story hooks, all that good stuff. And that's when I felt like my content really started to shift because I no longer felt like I only had to talk about this one thing. And a lot of the advice I'd gotten previously was don't talk about yourself, which was so harmful to me and to everyone watching and viewing and scrolling. You want to feel like it's not just about the tip, the trick, the education. You want to feel a point of connection across your screen to the people that you're connecting with. That's what this is.
And I'll also add 2 points. One, I remember a word that you didn't mention, but I felt in my personal experience when I paid the $8K for that program was a huge amount of guilt. And I remember my ex at the time was like, you eventually have to stop, beating yourself up for this. And I was like, I will not until I make the money back. And he was like, okay. And I was just so angry with myself for being strong-armed into a decision that it felt like they literally like pulled my Amex from my hand, and they didn't. That was the saddest part. Like they asked for it and I willingly gave. And I was so angry at myself for doing that. And the other point that's funny, and I was thinking about this before coming on here, and this is for the flirties and for our own edification as two people speaking to each other, but I loved having Benjamin in that cohort. But I do remember we butt heads a couple times. And I think now, especially seeing where your journey has gone, it was actually maybe so important that we did, because when we were butting heads, and I often find this with clients, we weren't butting heads. It was what I was saying was kind of stepping on the toes of potential, and everyone has them. I have them too, but insecurities marinated in the rhetoric and narrative that you had been fed by most of social media for so long that you believed to be true. And I understand why, because everyone I work with comes to me and is like, I don't understand what do you mean I can mix the personal and professional, that like people will care how I take my coffee, but also will then pay me to do a service for them? I'm like, I'm just telling you that if you are courageous enough to go forth and share some of this shit, people will care. And so I'm so thrilled to see what you've built and have grown and are growing and continue to build, especially because the energy that I even feel with you now is very different than I feel like I experienced with you then. Not in terms of like wow, you're so much nicer at all. It's like your voice sounds different, your energy feels different. And that makes me so happy for you, because in the same way that I've done for myself on my journey, you've clearly like put some shit down. Yeah. Which is so nice. That's how I experience you in this moment.
Well, thank you, Justin. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think you're definitely sensing a change in energy and confidence and just authenticity, because I mean, I can get on these recordings now and put out podcast episodes and videos and create content and go to stories and create offers. And I know exactly who I'm talking to, what I'm talking about. I know what I can offer that is different than what everybody else is offering, but still talking to some of the problems and struggles and experiences that daters and everyone just as human beings have when it comes to making connections, right? We're going to get into some of these questions of being too much, of being, oh, am I not enough? You get into people pleasing, right? You sacrifice wants, desires, boundaries. You know, you kind of struggling internally, like, who am I? What do I really want? And I think one of the reasons we butted heads is because you challenged me in some very real ways, which a coach is supposed to do. So I appreciate it.
You are welcome. It is, if anybody chooses to work with me at any point, I describe myself as a back pusher, not as much of a hand holder, although I will hold your hand, but I am also happy to be the person who's like, look, you paid me money for a reason. And like, if I'm not going to tell you the truth, what the fuck did you pay me for? And am I even really showing up for you? And so I'm so grateful. And it is just so lovely to share this space with you. And I'm happy to be on your turf in this. This is exciting for me.
On Flirtations, broadcasting globally all over the world.
All over.
So let's get into maybe a few dating, flirting related questions here, talking about these themes of personal branding, the art of being you, authenticity, and even a little bit of people pleasing. So for the flirty that is listening, that has felt throughout their dating lives that they're too much, right? They've been told they're too much. Like, let's break that down a little bit. What does that even mean, and how might we internalize that?
Yeah. There's so many, I won't call them contrived, but they're more and more passed around specifically because of TikTok and Instagram and social media, adages and colloquialisms and sayings about too much. Like, if I'm too much for you, like, go find less. Right. Yeah. Like, okay, all of it's great, right? All of it is truly great, but it can start to fall on deaf ears in the sense of like, well, just be yourself. Same sort of advice that at one point maybe meant something kind of, and now, at least to me, I'm like, means absolutely nothing if the person you say it to doesn't really have a concept of who they are. And so too much is one of those things too. It's like, well, by what standards, by what measurement? And like, when you say that to somebody, are you saying there's an objective amount of much one should contain or be? Yeah. And I am definitely a person who has in my life felt too much. And what I've now learned, or what I've now attempted to build for myself and have built by some measure, is a world where my much is my empire. And like, people pay me for my much. And so muchness is a concept I talk about a lot in my content and with my clients. I think if I put myself back into moments specifically in relationships when partners past, the ghosts of partners past said this to me, it was moments where like my realness started peeking out or poking out. And that probably was disruptive and scary to them. Scary, not like haunted house, but scary like, oh, I don't know this. I don't know this color of this person. And the person or people I'm thinking of in those moments lacked control over the situation, over the dynamic, over the relationship, and over me. And there are people out there who have hidden their much for so long through measures of and actions of control and micromanagement. And that's why I think when people tell you you're too much, it's out of a place of fear for them, knowing like, holy shit, these situations about to get out of control, in the means that like, I'm no longer captaining the boat, and that's scary.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely agree with all of that. And I think some of the too muchness that plays out that I see in dating, right? We've all seen those videos, right? If they say you're too much, then they can go find less somewhere else. I mean, I've said that. It's very, you know, clicky and buzzworthy, but to me, it's not about, talking too much, or that you're, super extroverted and you're maybe go all the time. It really is. I think the flirties are very deep feelers. I think a lot of them are highly sensitive, and they're empaths. And so when it comes to being too much, I think it's, can this other person reflect back your depth, right? Can they meet you there? Are you vibrating in the same frequency? And so when they're telling you they're too much, it's really, I don't think they know how to emotionally connect with you. And so maybe what you do is, moving forward, you start to shut down a little bit, you withdraw a little bit. And so if there's one takeaway that the flirties get from this conversation, I know there's going to be many, but it's that to own, right, your too muchness, which is really just your depth as a person, as a human being, and how you experience the world. That's kind of how I think about the too much topic.
No, for sure. And then like a final point for me, again, I'll always speak to my own experience, but we tend to then go like, okay, I'm the only one who feels this. I feel like I'm about to contradict myself as I say this, but I will try and find my way through.
Mhm.
I just am like, oh, I'll never find someone who also feels this way. And I think what I'm learning is like, well, I don't actually need somebody who has felt this way in their own life. I just need them to meet me where I'm at. They don't even need to necessarily have the same amount of emotional depth as I do, so long as they have the room to contain what I do, right? Like,
Yes.
our pools don't both always have to go to 24 feet deep, but chances are I'm not ending up with somebody who ends at 6, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see the potential problem ending up with somebody who is like at 16 or 18. Like, because look, our life experiences are different. I've been through some really shitty, complex trauma that like probably makes my pool extra deep. I don't need to end up with somebody who's been through their own trauma, so long as they're like, no, I'm willing to swim in your depth. That's fine. And again, I just found that metaphor for the first time. So I was like, let me find my way through this. But I think that that's important too. Like your too muchness is, as long as you can start to own it and recognize it, know that you're going to own it in isolation and in a vacuum. And this is a lot of the work that I do. It's like, you need to practice being the person who's okay with your own depth alone.
Yeah.
Maybe on social media. Again, I love self-healing through storytelling. Quote unquote, practicing it with the people you're on a date. That's a great place to like implement, but practicing is weird. Like for the first time on a date, because you really are like treading around in your own depth for the first time with a person that doesn't know you. And also first dates, as I'm sure you talk about all the time, have this weird construct and energy surrounding them oftentimes. So there's a lot there. I just introduced a lot into the conversation, but getting comfortable with poking around in yourself solo, again, perhaps in plain view of the public on social media, is a really wise place to start, beyond being like, okay, I'm going to go into this first date and be like, give them everything on the first date. Because that's also like, nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves your everything, period, or on that first date especially.
Yeah. I love the pool analogy. That's one I'm going to use from now as well. We're swimming in different depths. And you don't necessarily need someone who can, they have the same depth as you, perhaps, but they can at least acknowledge and swim with you. So I really like that analogy. And this is where like a lot of your tips and tricks and strategies come into place with dating, with boundaries, right? I think it's always this careful balance, this kind of delicate balance early on of vulnerability versus cringe vulnerability that has come up on Flirtations before, where it's like you want to feel like you can open up to somebody, like you can start to share some about you, but saving some of those layers perhaps for can this person be consistent? Can you feel like you can trust them a little bit? Are they opening up to you? Are they asking questions? And so I'm not really a fan of matching energy as dating advice, but allowing a connection to unfold over time. And then as you start to build confidence with that process, like maybe you're there, maybe you're just starting in that part of your confidence journey. It's like, your authenticity is going to draw it's going to attract people to you that can relate to you on some of those layers that you're sharing about.
I too forget to stray far outside of my immediate hobbies and passions and the things I talk about, i.e. authenticity, storytelling, personal branding, entrepreneurship, all that stuff. I think I've made 2 videos out of thousands of TikToks ever about dating or relationships. And it's funny, it's like, oh, of course there's crossover because we're really just talking about human to human anything. Exactly. But I have a lot of thoughts on dating. Not that I'm going to go become a dating person, because like you've got it on lock and that's great. And also for people at home, like I hardly date at all. Like I'm not a recluse, but if you see me out in the world, do say hi, because I'm not out there much. So it is interesting. I'm actually excited to be chatting dating, just because I was like, this is a side of me that my people do not know about at all, really.
Yeah. This is, come swim in my pool, Justin.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. No lifeguard on duty. Swim at your own risk.
What do you think about taking the conversation a little bit now into the realm of self-confidence?
Mm-hmm.
and how we can just develop self-confidence within ourselves to, right, make the first move, to initiate the conversation, to, right, really set up the first date. Like, I think a lot of us, like this concept I play with is this waiting for when mentality. And there are some social constructs for sure, some gender constructs that come into play. But I'm trying to encourage the flirties to just take more initiative in not just their dating lives, but their lives in general, right? Instead of waiting for when you have the date, waiting for when you have the relationship, waiting for when you feel ready, right? Go
Mm-hmm.
like do the thing. And so, speaking to confidence a little bit, I am very interested to hear your thoughts.
Well, again, I will speak to my own experience. I
Yeah.
say go on out there and get rejected because that's what I've done.
Mm,
In the sense that, like, he'll never see this, so it doesn't matter. I had a moment in a Trader Joe's a couple of months ago where I was like, "Oh, hi, husband," and we met in front of the chicken. I was like, "This is such a beautiful story. Our grandkids will
yeah.
love it." But because that's also who I am. Like, no one falls in love with people he doesn't know and who don't know him like I do
Uh-huh.
is what I'm convinced about.
I
I'm
love
just
it.
like, oh,
Yeah.
that man over there, my husband, you mean?
Mhm.
So I said to myself, and we chatted very briefly, and that was it. And then we like parted ways in Trader Joe's, and I was like, cool, I have to introduce myself because I want to, one, and two, because I was like, because I'll kick myself if I don't, because I had
Mhm.
enough of those moments.
Mhm.
Very long story short, we did leave at the same time. I did like AirPod out. Hi, do you mind if I ask you your name? But like full on in person, egg on my
Yes.
face, like waiting for whatever was going to come my way.
Uh-huh.
We chatted. We walked like 2 blocks. It was a wonderful 2 blocks. We had a lot in common. We exchanged Instagram, and a little DMing went back and forth. And very quickly, I realized like the water was pretty tepid, and I was like, cool. What I deemed, I was like, you're not interested in that way right now, which I was like, bummer. And at
Mhm.
first I was like, I'm ugly, which is the first place I always go. For me,
Mhm.
it's always looks, which
Mhm.
is fucked and like another podcast episode, I suppose. And then I was like, whatever. And like it took a day, it took minutes for me to be like, okay, I'm over that.
Yeah.
But I was proud of myself for doing the thing.
Yes.
And I'm not even sure I would think about confidence in that moment. Although when I share this story with people, they're like, wow, I don't know if I ever could have done that. And I was like, the knowledge that I would be so annoyed with myself later would occlude it was so much heavier than I was like, than it cost me to actually make the scary choice in that moment. So I was like, I felt like I would just be sort of out of integrity with myself if I ignored the impulse. And so to me, it wasn't about self-confidence. It was just like, I'm gonna be fucking pissed at myself if I don't do this. So I'm going to try it.
Yep.
So I say this also to too much people. This is a point I was going to say before, but I just didn't have the words to articulate it. You will be too much for way more people than you're going to be enough for way more people. Like you're going to be too much most of the time to others.
Yeah.
That shouldn't stop you from putting yourself out there, is I suppose what I'm getting at. Like DM that person, like fucking whatever. Like what have you actually got to lose except for them either like leaving you unread or saying no? Those are pretty much the only two things.
Yeah.
Or leading you on a little bit, but you'll also feel that.
Yeah, you'll feel that. Well, I mean, I love a grocery store flirt, especially. I mean, that was one of my most viral videos I've ever made, flirting at the grocery store.
Well, did it work out for you?
Well, I work at Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's, where dreams are born and die, apparently. But I remembered that. I couldn't remember if it was Trader Joe's or Whole Foods.
Yes, good old TJ's. I'll be showing up there a little bit later today for my shift.
Love.
Yeah, and one of my biggest videos was about flirting at the grocery store, specifically on a Sunday morning. And then all the European flirties were like, "But our markets are closed," and I was like,
"They're like, we'll never find love."
Well, yeah, we're screwed. Go to the farmers market on a Saturday. But
hysterical.
Yes, the grocery store is a flirting tip, specifically on a Sunday morning, and then your family start to roll in throughout the afternoon. But then a little bit later in the evening, right, the singles are going to be out as well of all genders. So flirting at the grocery store.
When is Trader Joe's going to start a singles night? Like of all the supermarkets and Trader Joe's with their branding, and see, you need to get just big enough that they're like, Benjamin, we've heard your podcast and we've seen your socials.
Yes.
How would you feel about hosting Trader Joe's first ever LGBTQIA plus mixer?
I'm ready right now. I already have all my ideas. I know exactly how this is going to go. I can
get Joe on the phone
tomorrow. Yeah. Because they do some of these things. I've been sent this video a few times in Spain, and it's with a pineapple, where there's a singles night with this grocery chain in Spain, where if you have a pineapple in your cart, that means you are single. And depending on which way it faces, if it's like upside down or something, is how you identify gay, straight.
Wait, do you know what an upside down pineapple means?
Well, see,
right?
I do now, Justin, because the flirties told me.
Okay, cool. I was like, wow, Benjamin,
It
how
means
vanilla.
something different, perhaps in the States. Although in Spain, in this context, appears to be a separate function.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pineapples, cultural osmosis. You gotta love it.
Truly. But speaking, back to confidence, it's like my tagline is to get out of your head and into the flirt, to stop thinking your way through these things and just feel your way through it. It's really a practice of connection. You putting yourself out there, saying hello, detaching from those expectations, even if your intent is a little bit more romantic and that's what you're thinking, right? Is that my husband over there? We've all been in that frame of mind. I do that all the time. Like when I'm at the checkout line, I'll see someone walk in. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, probably. I don't know their name. I don't know anything about them. It might be something about what they're wearing or their looks that catch my eye. But just coming back to the moment, saying hello, making some eye contact, like someone might not be up to receive that. You don't know what's going through their mind, what's going on in their life, how they're even feeling that day, what's going on with their relationships. Are they taken? Are they straight? Are they gay? Like all these questions come into play that I get all the time. How do I know their relationship status? How do I know how they identify? And I'm like, you're not going to know
Until you go to seduce them.
Exactly, Justin. Exactly.
Look, I'm just saying, go for broke.
You got to. And it's like, but rejection happens to me all the time. It happens to all of us. It's like, I like to reframe rejection as choice, and just like you made a choice to initiate a moment of connection and the other person chose, you know what, I'm not up for that. But it's okay. Like it's not personal. I know a lot of flirties take it personal oftentimes. I do too. Maybe how can we not take rejection so personally sometimes?
I feel primed to answer this question because, as I briefly mentioned before, I've been an actor for many, many years. And so I was professionally rejected hundreds of times. And I think at the end of the day, finding solace in for me, when I was auditioning, I remember I would like call my dad after, especially if I was like, that went great, or like, that was kind of shit, or like, I don't know, the experience in the room was weird. And he was like, did you do the best that you could? And I was like, yeah. He was like, did you prepare as much as you could? Like, did you walk in the room and like do what you could do best in that moment? I was like, yeah. Yes. He was like, then that's all you could do. That's like literally all you could do. You didn't have more if you just said you acknowledged you did your best. And I was like, that is true. And it's not if my best isn't good enough. It's just if my best wasn't what they were looking for. And I mean, honestly, it's not a dissimilar analog to the conversation we're having now, because they're looking for one person for one spot for a myriad of reasons that you don't actually know, which is not dating and partnerships or coupling up. And so did you show up as not your best self, but did you show up as your most resourced self? And if other person doesn't make the same choice, perhaps, it ain't about you.
Right. It's a hard thing to shift out of that place of ego. And like we slip in and out of that. And some of us, that's primarily like where we're living our lives from, where we take everything very personally, and it's kind of the world is out to, out to get us kind of thing. It's like me against the world sort of mentality. And so you're coming from this place of, I see this all the time in dating. And there's so much more that goes into this, but wanting to prove yourself, to earn someone's love, right? Maybe you start people pleasing, and there's lots of things, trauma and crazy amounts of things that go into these practices. But speaking very, very generally, it's like I hope the flirties just throughout this conversation are just feeling, you know what, like maybe rejection's going to happen, but
rejection's definitely going to happen. I think that's
it definitely is.
People say to me on, because like I deal more with people like, I'm terrified to be seen, I'm terrified to show up, period, let alone on social media, and you're telling me XYZ, I have to do this publicly. And I'm like, are you afraid of the judgment, or are you afraid of the potential judgment you might experience? And then when they think about it, they're like, well, I guess worrying, it's like, if it's even going to happen. I was like, oh, but let me tell you for sure, it's going to fucking happen. Like you are going to have someone at some point say something that is shitty. And for the flirties at home, the gag for me recently is I don't really get many troll comments, but just recently on LinkedIn.
Oh,
yeah, people got shit to say on LinkedIn. The other day, a guy said to me, "You are too femme to exist on this earth." And I was like, "Sir, tell me you don't know what femme is, or like feels like or reads energy wise. And I was like, look, I got a no problem with the way that I love gender performance and how people want to be anytime. I was like, my nails aren't painted. My voice is typically masked. I was just like, LinkedIn is so fucking stuck. And that's just, again, a whole other conversation. But remember, to the flirties too, there's a world of LinkedIn people out there who are the people who will think you're too much. Like there is a world of people who are just stuck in their own shit and are not open-minded enough to see you.
Yeah.
If you're rejected by those people, you get off lucky because you don't know what you were going to get in the future with them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. I get unfollowed on Instagram. I can look at my analytics, and I do. I've got to over 100 times a day. And that's been the case for years. And I used to take it extremely personal, like, oh my God, I completely missed the mark. What I posted was no good, right? Like, do I give up? Like, what am I doing? This is not for me. And so you start to go through that whole cycle. But if I can just come back to my mission, right? How do I want to show up? What feels good for me? If I can come from a place of service and empathy, I don't think I can go wrong. And so I just bring myself, like, maybe I have a moment where I'm wallowing, right? I'm just like throwing my hands up in the air. I'm throwing my phone out the window right now, but then let me bring myself back to center, because I'm not going to let the unfollows or the troll comment take me away from doing something that I love to do.
No, absolutely not. Because then you give those people too much power, and that's 100%. What they crave.
100%. Let's, I want to ask you now about, so we've been talking about kind of generally the art of being you and personal branding. And I love what you were just talking about a moment ago of getting comfortable and confident being seen. This is a huge thing for content creators, right? If you're making videos, it's like just even watching your own video back or listening back to your own podcast, like I had to get used to that. So I know there's a lot of flirties out there that are just, they have this fear of being seen. Talking about that a little bit.
Yeah. It's like if I ever have these conversations with people, I think, because my immediate impulse, and maybe you can answer on behalf of them because I don't know what the discourse is between you and them. When they say seen, what's typically the context or the scenario? Like, what do they mean by seen when they're saying I'm afraid of it?
It can come in a few different ways. It might be related to their kind of quote unquote attractiveness or worthiness as a partner. It might be just coming from a place of anxiety, like they're on a date or they're starting to get to know someone. Like, what do I talk about? They're criticizing their own words, their own sentences, right? Their own flirt game, right? Thinking they're not good at this. And so inevitably the result is they peel back or they pull back, or now they try and match energy, or they let the other person just take the lead and initiate everything because they don't want to put themselves out there, right, too much, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. And so when it comes to being seen, it just comes back to a point of confidence and esteem a lot of the times.
That's really interesting. That's really helpful for me. I feel like a therapist because I've been taking so many notes, and that they're just, I'm like, oh my God, I've got content ideas for days now. Something that I say to my people, because I just pictured myself on a date. The first one about like attractiveness and worth, I'm sort of in the same pool as y'all. Just hear that because like that's been one of my larger downfalls in terms of the dating world. And like I can objectively step outside of myself and be like, you are not unattractive, but don't tell that to me like while I'm sitting on a date or while I'm on Hinge looking at somebody that I'm like, wow, you're hot. And then we don't match. I'm like, right, because I'm an uggo. So it's like, there's that's the shit that I go through my head still. The other part of it though, like being on a date, I think one of the best like both vaccine, antidote, and solution to the fear of being seen is transparency. And so I think if I was on a date and feeling like really like crazy high energy, but like in a frenetic sort of out of control way because I was so nervous, I think at a point I would have to take a really big breath and say to them, hey, I know we just met. I'm going to let you know, like, I'm finding myself a little nervous right now, like a little heart beating out of my chest. I think I'm just excited or nervous, or like, you're very attractive and I'm enjoying myself, but I feel myself a little out of my skin right now. And I can now tell in that hypothetical scenario, there might be a version where somebody says back to me like, okay, cool. Like, is there anything I can do? A lot of people would also just be like, okay, thanks. for sharing. They wouldn't know what to do with that transparency. I do find that novelty throws people off, but I love that. So remember that in being seen, you don't have to give up your control necessarily. Like you still, or rather, you get to be seen on your terms.
Okay.
I think what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, that's really, really helpful. The transparency piece. Yeah, if you're nervous on a date, it's okay to be like, you know what? I'm a little bit nervous, right? And then you play it off with maybe a little humor or a flirt, or just let it be, let it breathe. There can be some silence there. Sometimes when we feel anxious, we feel we need to fill all of this silence with words, and that's okay. You can let the other person respond as well. So I love transparency as a response to this fear of being seen.
Yeah, it's like all you got. I mean, like people will be like, but I'm just as afraid of transparency. Then I'm like, well, fucking, you could be afraid of it all except defeat. Or it's like you can choose one fucking thing and try. Because I understand it's like, to be seen, what do you mean? Do you mean like stand on the street and like flash my boobs? Like, no, that's Mardi Gras and congrats on getting your beads. But like transparency to me feels like a skill that you can hone. And then once you've honed the skill, self-awareness and self-trust coming first. But once you decide to invest in transparency, then it's like to be transparent makes more sense as an active verb than to be seen to me, because to be seen involves another person. To be transparent actually does not technically necessarily. You can be transparent at any moment. To be seen, you need to be within view or being witnessed by somebody.
That's an interesting connection I've really never thought about before, that the practice of transparency doesn't revolve around being seen by somebody else.
Is that my next TED Talk?
That could be, I mean, at least a video. I want to see that.
He's like, I'm not convinced it's a TED Talk, but I would love to see your content piece on it. I'm like, happily, I will do a content piece.
Test it there first. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, of course. No, I like I said, have so many ideas, but I love these spaces because I say this shit for the first time and then I never hear them again. Or like, I'm like, wow, I must have said something great. Oh, well, lost to the ether. So this is so wonderful that it's being recorded.
Yeah. And let people acknowledge you, right? If they come up and they've got a compliment, you're wearing a cool jacket or hairstyle or something like that, take it. Thank you so much. I love this jacket. This is where I got it. Oh, thank you so much. I just got my hair cut. I'm like really enjoying it. Receive the compliment, play a little bit, flirt a little bit, and just let someone acknowledge you. Maybe it's with their eye contact. Maybe you're at the meat section at Trader Joe's and you go right to make eye contact, a little smile, a wave, a nod, something like that. Let someone possibly receive that back and then see you. It doesn't have to go beyond that even. I just think sometimes I feel, and I mean, what I hear, this fear of being seen is just like when the person makes eye contact and then you immediately look away, you look down, you look the other way, you walk away. It's sort of, now we come into this world of expectations of, what's expected of me? What do I have to do next? Maybe you're starting to feel a little bit anxious. It's okay. Take a breath, like just breathe. And maybe you just smile back, like just let someone like physically see you too. It's okay.
It's like having a movie moment. That's like your movie moment.
Which, I mean, I'm the star of my own rom-com every day of my life.
Honey, tell me about it. I'm the star of my own drama. So I'm sure your rom-com does better on Netflix than my drama, but we're at least the stars.
I think there's a market for both. Now streaming.
Us.
Just us doing our lives. Oh my gosh, these conversations go, this one particularly so fast. But I want to talk about, as we start to conclude here, the art of being human, right? Human. It's in your last name, kind of bringing it home there. What does it mean, or what is the art of being human?
Oh my gosh, I love it. When I respond to questions like this, or when I talk about human, I like to think of it as a verb, which again comes straight from my TEDx talk, but I've like really invested in the idea over the last several years. And the more work I do on it, especially lately, I think it's got like two prongs. One is both the internal and external work of self-healing. The internal work being like journaling, therapy, any of the introspection that a lot of us engage in. But what I find most people, like 98% of people, don't engage in or execute is like externalizing said healing. And that's where a lot of what you're talking about steps in. Like, it is the moment at the grocery store Also, this episode brought to you by Trader Joe's.
Right.
It is the moment at the grocery store where you allow yourself to be seen, or you have your movie moment, or you, right? You like
Yeah.
implement something from the internal healing, because that's the only way your world actually shifts and changes.
Absolutely.
And the other prong is like, to human is to do, to be, to act in a way that is completely self-decided, self-directed, based upon your goals and values, with complete disregard for the judgment of others. And so it's like, cool, can you like selfishly go through your world and still be entirely generous to the people around you, but not dictated or curated for them or by them?
Ooh,
And that's the work that I think I really want to do. I like that your mission is so neat and tidy, and really encompasses everything that you believe in, that you teach. And I guess sometimes when I think about like, well, if I had one, it would be to make everybody in the world feel seen for like, you know, at least a brief moment at some point, whether it's through my content or through something that I've done for them, that they can engage in a moment in their own lives when they are seen and revealed. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying that this work, if you do not give up, like I always say, if you're consistent about it, will change your life.
yes.
I mean, TikTok and showing up on TikTok, again, like, I don't know when this episode will air, and also like TikTok, but social media in general, you can do this on any platform. Showing up on social and revealing will factually, inevitably, if you do it long enough, change your entire life. And I'm so proud of what I've built. As exhausting as it is sometimes, it's entirely on my terms. And if I'm exhausted, it's because I exhausted myself by doing everything that I want. I don't answer to anybody. In fact, many people answer to me.
Yeah.
And that is one of the benefits and rewards of like, okay, I've been me as publicly as I can be. I've been me to the best of my ability. And I've attracted X number of people via social media and business wise who are here for what I do. Where can you acquire just a bit more agency and autonomy in your life? And I think that's a great place to start for people listening.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. And I'll share just some of my experience with this and working with you. It was a video you made kind of talking about authenticity, but it was, you know, say you're on, doesn't matter the platform, social media, you're going to record a video, and then you're seeing, like, you're not actually creating the video. You're seeing yourself on the screen. Right. So like that's one place to start. And then you're trying to orchestrate and just organize your words based on what you think people want to hear, based on what's viral right now, what's trending, how is everybody else talking about what you're about to talk about. And so you're starting to lack an individual perspective and point of view. And then when it comes to maybe you filmed it, maybe you didn't, let's say you did, and now you're editing and you're like, oh God, I don't know, I didn't say that right. Like you're just paralyzed in this fear of putting yourself out there. And so inevitably you sabotage yourself, you never post it, you quit, you give up. And like that still happens for me, because of course I want every video to go viral. I really do. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. And I know, and at the end of the day, that's going to help my business. I also want to help as many people as possible flirt and make connections. And if my videos go viral, that's going to help them, because I believe in what I say and I believe in myself and my mission. But like, I just have to come back to like, is what I'm saying true to me? Like without the camera, if I were just having a FaceTime call with my best friend, with my mom, with my cat, would I show up in the same way? Would I be as real? Would I be as genuine? Would I be as authentic? And that's what it's really about. Trying to, I mean, we're in our rom-coms and our dramas. We love a bit of performance. I mean, I'm a gay Libra. Of course I love a lot of that in my life. But coming back to just, who are you, right? Like the biggest question, one of the greatest questions we'll ever ask ourselves, and we'll ask for the rest of our lives. And this is why I love having conversations like this on Flirtations and across my socials. It's not just about dating strategy, do this, don't do that, how to write pickup lines. It's so much more. It's the art of being you that really matters the most.
For sure. And then the one thing I would just say is like, in my world, at least, I love the word perform and performance, especially given my background as an actor, because I don't think to perform oneself is necessarily false or fake. I think Benjamin and I are both doing it on this podcast. It doesn't mean that we're inauthentic. It just means that in this moment, I am cognizant that I'm a guest on a podcast who this morning I was like, oh, I should show up and like do my hair and do it all. And I was like, you know what? No, I don't need to do that for me. And I'm going to show up and be okay with being very casual because when I've done podcasts in the past, like I'll get my 4K camera out and I'll do the thing and I'll beat my face and the lighting will be perfect and everything. And I'm like, that is cool and good. What if I just didn't need it all? And so today I just decided to like show up and be comfortable with what I was showing up, looking as and with coming to the table with, but I'm still on to a point, right? I'm like not sitting on my beanbag chair like I was prior to getting ready for this whole thing. So if you do sometimes, if you're in the audience and you're listening and you feel like, I do feel like I'm being a little quote unquote over the top right now, just remember that things might feel over the top, especially if you've been like under the bottom for too long. I literally was like, how do I opposite this? But like, that's what I got. So like, if you've been underdoing yourself because you've been afraid of being seen as too much, just remember that like then any doing might feel over the top. It's not true. You're sort of just, I always say like your personality muscle is just atrophied a bit.
Yeah, that's a good perspective to have on this too. It's life is a bit of a performance, and sometimes
stage,
I
right?
mean, you got to fake it till you make it. Sometimes, I mean, that is how I live my life most of the time these days. And there is like when we're creating videos and recording for Flirtations, there's an element of being on, but at the same time, I think what's coming across people's earbuds and their phones and speakers is just a really real conversation too.
For sure. 100%.
Oh my gosh, Justin Schuman, I want to send the Flirties your way to follow you, to work with you, enroll in your programs. How can they do that?
My goodness. Well, my largest platform is TikTok. I love TikTok. If she is an RIP at this moment, Instagram, I have really found a fresh love for by showing up in my videos are like 5, 6, 8 minutes long. Y'all, like this is who I am. I'm a yapper. So Instagram, again, LinkedIn, YouTube, I really am everywhere. And if I'm not just at Justin Schuman, I'm at Justin Schuman Official. I do work with private clients. Like I said earlier, I'm not inexpensive and I don't apologize for that. But if you have the means and you have the goal, and I know for a fact I can help you get there, I would love to work with you on it. And the group coaching program is also absolutely incredible. And the results people are getting are amazing. And I'm very proud of them for it. It is a storytelling completely. How can we find the seamlessness between who you are before you hit the big red button and after? That's my approach. And everybody just goes to the application in my bio on any of these platforms. And that's kind of your starting journey with us. And then you go through the application, every single application gets seen. I've got a team of people that goes to the applications with me. And we will take care of you individually. And I will never, this is a promise, ever sell you some shit you don't need or sell you some shit that won't work for you. That's just not who I am. And as Benjamin and I spoke about earlier, like having been the person who's paid $8,000 for something that not only didn't work for me, but made me feel actively terrible, I will never be that person to somebody. So go follow me, engage, and just remember that my content's completely free and I give a lot of shit away. So just go hit follow.
Yes, if you are a content creator, aspiring or otherwise, a creative entrepreneur, a coach, right, a business owner, at least go watch the TED Talk, follow Justin on socials. And if you're looking for more one-on-one support, I mean, I can share from firsthand experience, right? I've been in the program. We've had a one-on-one call. I've gotten a lot from your content as well. And you're a big reason that I'm here today doing this podcast. So thank you so much, Justin, for being on Flirtations today.
So happy to be here. Would come back anytime. And I hope the Flirties enjoy the episode.
Fantastic. Go flirt, everybody. All right, Flirties, that's a wrap on this episode of Flirtations. Thank you so much to Justin Schuman for coming on the show today and having this incredible conversation with us. This was so cool, really a full circle moment for me when I reached out to Justin and he said yes to come on the show. And then here we are, we did it. This is the episode. This is the finished product. Really, really cool experience for me as I was a student of Justin's a few years ago when I was really getting started in this whole coaching journey, and he helped me a lot, y'all. So if you are a content creator, aspiring or otherwise, you're in it, you are a creative, a business owner, an entrepreneur looking to show up online, build your business, perhaps using social media, and you're like, I don't know, follow Justin. Just start there because he gives pretty much a lot away for free, and you'll learn a lot just through his videos on YouTube and Instagram, TikTok. TikTok, all the things. So yes, thank you to Justin. Yes, thank you to Justin. And thank you to you, the Flirties, for listening, for tuning in, for streaming wherever you may be in the world. Y'all already know I couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much for being here. Please rate, review, subscribe to the show. If you haven't already, if you have, thank you so much. And now share it just with one person. One person. Go through your phone list, your contact list. Share it with somebody. Just one person. Yeah. Thank you. I think that's it. Have I checked all my boxes? I think I've checked all the boxes. Signing off officially here at Flirt Headquarters. My name is Benjamin. I'm the Flirt Coach and Gay Libra Flirty. Please, happy flirting to you.